Before we watch this video that I'm going to be cutting in and out because it is a long video, and the way they speak is very like, elite in a way. And, we're not elitist here. We're regular people. So we need to be able to relate to the regular person. So pretty much when, so Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, did a negotiation with the president of El Salvador, and nobody knew about this. This was top secret. We're still trying to figure out how this judge knew, but whatever, we'll get to that. And so they made a deal that all the Tren de Aragua guys, gangbangers, were going to get deported to the maximum security prisons there. You know how they're known for their prisons ever since that guy was in power. And then during the process of sending them there, this liberal judge, I believe he's from a district judge from DC, tried to block the Aliens Enemies Act that was legally allowing them to deport these guys to the maximum security prison. And now that's going to be under the court system. Now there's going to be an actual judicial review whether the judge was in the right to block this or whether they were in the wrong. I believe they were hardcore in the wrong, but we're going to find out as time goes by. But check this out really quick. This is Stephen Miller. I believe his name is Stephen Miller. He's a part of the administration and this propaganda machine from CNN.
Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, is here with me now. Stephen, thanks very much for being in the arena.
Glad to. Thank you.
So you called the judge's order just earlier today, quote, patently unlawful, end quote, and said that it was an assault on democracy itself.
It is.
Does that mean that the administration is ignoring this order, and might you ignore future court orders that meet the criteria you laid out?
The President of the United States and his administration reserve all rights under the Constitution to conduct national security operations in defense of the United States. The Alien Enemies Act, which was passed into law by the founding generation of this country, men like John Adams, was written explicitly to give the President the authority to repel an alien invasion of the United States. That is not something that a district court judge has any authority whatsoever to interfere with, to enjoin, to restrict, or to restrain any way. You can read the law yourself. There's not one clause in that law that makes it subject to judicial review, let alone district court review.
So, Stephen, when you say that this person has no authority at all, this is how our system works. It starts with these judges and then continues up. At what point does it become, in your view, legal for the justice system to be looking at this and making a judgment? And I fail to see how there's any other way but to start with where we're starting here before you get to eventually the Supreme Court.
Well, so first of all, there's a term in law, justiciable. This is not justiciable. In other words, this is not subject to judicial remedy. When the president is exercising his Article 2 powers to defend the country against an invasion or to repel a foreign terrorist that is unlawfully in the country, he's exercising his core Article 2 powers as commander-in-chief.
Is Venezuela invading the U.S.?
This is a very important point. This is a Title 50 authority. It's a commander-in-chief authority.
Pause it.
So just to ask you a simple question.
Do you see what she did there? So he's literally telling her what we're doing is legal. And then she literally goes and says, is Tren de Aragua invading your country? Like, are Venezuelans invading the country? Like, dude, we had an invasion. What are you talking about? Like, you know what pissed me off about this? The fact that nobody was talking about the invasion when it was actually happening at all. They weren't talking about it, except Fox News and like the independent, podcasters on the right. But they were not talking about this at all. Where was this judge when a bunch of kids went fucking missing? Where was the judge? That's what gets me even more upset. It's like, bro, these people are full of shit. He's literally saying the Aliens Enemies Act, which was created by Congress, by the way, literally allows a president to, under this act, if we're being invaded, to do pretty much actions that are going to stop like the invasion or to secure the country from the invasion. And there's other things to it, but he's using invasion as a justification to be able to deport these people out of here. And this bitch, instead of just listening to what the hell he said, but of course she can't do that because they don't know how to listen. All they do is deflect and then like ask a totally like random question. Like, what does that have to do with what the hell I'm even talking about? Because they don't want to accept the fact that what they're doing is actually legal, and it's going to look really bad on them for, instead of just realizing that this is legal, it's going to look bad on them because technically they're siding with the judge, and the judge is going to lose on the case. But continue on what he said, because the way he handles it is great.
You talk about how the system works. Does a district court judge have the right to direct or enjoin troop movements overseas? Yes or no?
No.
Well, Stephen, my question.
You see, she can't answer that.
Answer my question first.
In other words,
is Venezuela invading our country in a way that would?
All these countries invaded our country.
I'll answer yours and you'll answer mine. Under the terms of the statute, Tren de Aragua is an alien enemy force that has come here as detailed at length in the proclamation at the direction of the Venezuelan government. The statute says that a president has the ability to repel an invasion or predatory incursion that is directed by a foreign
state
government.
or a government, right? Are they a state or a government?
This would be, yes, it is documented that TDA was sent by the Venezuelan government in the proclamation. And here's an even more important point. Under the Constitution, who makes that determination? A district court judge elected by no one, or the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy? The president and the president alone makes a decision of what triggers that determination.
So do you then
in the
think we
statute.
are actually at war with Venezuela, the nation state of Venezuela?
You're not hearing me and you're not understanding me.
Yep.
Read the statute.
That's not her job.
Alien Enemies Act, 1798. It says if a predatory incursion is perpetrated by a foreign government. So it lists three qualifying actions. It could be an act of war.
It does say in the very beginning there has to be a declared war against a nation or a state. That's what it says.
No, wrong. Look at the statutes on my account on social media.
That's actually where we found it.
You're wrong.
Yes. It says, or a predatory incursion, or an invasion. The statute delineates three criteria for triggering the Alien Enemies Act. One is an act of war, which, by the way, an invasion is an act of war, but put that aside. One is an invasion, which this is. One is a predatory incursion, which this is. So it actually meets all three statutory criteria. But with respect to this particular statute, the proclamation is utilizing the incursion and invasion language in the statute.
So,
but this is a very important question, because no, hold on. It's a very important question. You said the way our system works is the President of the United States commands the armed forces of the country, commands the foreign policy of the country, and that's subject to district court review. That is fundamentally untrue.
I never said that, Stephen. I did not say.
That has never been true.
This was not a military operation. I mean,
a district court judge can.
So that is what she said, because she is siding with the judge by saying that, by him doing this, it's the right thing to do because it's checks and balances. Pretty much insinuating that Donald Trump doesn't have a right to do what he is doing when he does have a right to do it. Hence why he used an act that was made for this. Like, it was made for this. And she's like, no. This judge has a right to do what he's doing. That's what checks and balances is. And it's like, no, he doesn't, because the way that deal happened was top secret. And because this guy is trying to play president, he's now asking for top secret information, which he doesn't have authority to have. You're a judge, dude. Like, and what's hilarious? How the left and the Democrats are like, oh, but Elon Musk wasn't elected. Okay, neither was this guy. This judge is not elected. He was selected, not elected by the people. Who is he to do what he is doing? And what's even crazier is how, again, what's up at Lockdown? Thank you so much for showing up. What's crazy is that these are the same people who say, oh, let's pack the Supreme Court. Let's have as many people in the Supreme Court as possible. I just recently found out, y'all, We have over 200 liberal, not even liberal, progressive judges. I wouldn't mind if they were liberal. They're not liberal. They're progressive judges. And I've told you, and I'm going to tell you again, progressive is the camouflage for Marxist and socialist. That's what it is. But they don't call it that anymore because it's not marketable. They say progressive. We're progressive. No, you're a Marxist. But nonetheless, let's watch this. This is Chuck Schumer pretty much boasting about how they have progressive judges, over 200 of them. I lost my mind when I saw this. I was like, what? And they want to pack the court? That's fucking crazy. That's insane.
The good news here is we did put 235 judges, progressive judges, judges not under the control of Trump last year on the bench, and they are ruling against Trump time after time after time. And we hope that the appellate courts, when it gets up there in the Supreme Court, will uphold those rulings.
Interesting. Lisa Booth
Yeah,
joins us now. Hi, great to see you in
care about
person,
any
Lisa.
of that.
Long time.
I just wanted, because I couldn't find anybody else who was doing that except Fox News. Okay, so they selected all these progressive judges to pretty much stop Trump from actually doing the promises he said he was going to do throughout his campaign. This guy is one of the few presidents who actually is doing what he said he was going to do. We're used to politicians not doing that. We're used to politicians talking a big game and not doing shit when they're actually in power. And this guy has proven in like 2 months that he is straight up serious about everything he said he wanted to do throughout his campaign. Like, he was not fucking around. And the fact that they're like, okay, well, we know he's not fucking around, so we're gonna get all these progressive judges in to stop him from doing it, which shows that they don't really care about this country or the American people, because the American people wanted this. The majority of people want this. They don't want an unsecure border, which, by the way, people actually believe last 4 years, the border was not open. They actually believe that it was closed because the Biden administration did deport people. But at the same time, they were also bringing a shit ton of people into the country. And there's one of those things that I've realized that sometimes people are in such a bubble that they just refuse to accept what's actually going on. Like, I know for a fact the border was open because when you are a immigrant, you unfortunately know people who take advantage, when they can. All right. So as an immigrant, I'm telling you from personal experience, the border was open because family came the wrong way because the border was open. So the fact that there are Americans who don't want to accept this simply because they just either don't want to believe that perhaps, the president they voted for actually allowed a bunch of people to come in. And then there's the liberals who are humanitarians. They're like, oh, but, they deserve a better life and whatever. That's not a reason for political asylum. The majority of these people came here through political asylum. I know, unfortunately, people that came through political asylum, 2 years later, they went back to Cuba. That's not political asylum. You should not be allowed to go back to a country that you fled from because of political prosecution. Therefore, that means that a shit ton of people who are seeking political asylum are not actually being prosecuted in their country. They just want to come here for a better life, and that's okay. But don't lie and say that you are being prosecuted in your country. Just admit why you want to come here. I want to come here for a better life.